What's up? All right. Hello, Facebook. What's up, Instagram? All right. So, happy day after Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope you had a really good Thanksgiving. If you spent time with family or if you kept it simple and stayed to yourself. Either way, I hope that you were blessed, that you ate well, that you counted your blessings up, because we have a lot to be thankful for. Hello. And so I wanted to make sure that I kept my promise to come and hang out with you guys today. Not much going on. Going to be probably getting some exercise today. But I think it's important to continue talking about healing. And especially this time of the year, because there's a lot going on. So what I have for you today is my 4-part framework for healing the mother wound. And if you've been on the page any amount of time, then you've probably heard me talking about it or, see me post about it. But I'm just going to walk you through it today because I think it's important to just have a whole picture of what the process entails. So that's what I want to do today. So if you're new to my page, welcome. My name is Anjanika Brooks, and I'm known as the Unmothered Coach, and I'm the author of this little book here. And the book is called Unmothered, A Daughter's Guide to Acceptance, Healing, and Renewal. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Thank you for joining me. Come on in. There will be a replay, so if you can't stay the whole time, no worries. And so let's get into it. So first I want to give you the background of how I arrived at the framework that I use for healing. And so the idea for my book, Unmothered, came to me when I was at my lowest point. This was back when I was 27. So I was 27 years old, and I had just lost my mother to breast cancer. She had been battling breast cancer for about 6 months. It was an extremely aggressive form of it, and she died. She didn't make it. And so I had just come back from North Carolina, had laid her to rest, and I live here in Virginia, just outside of D.C. And so I was back here trying to get myself together after doing the funeral and everything. I am the oldest of, there's 3 of us. So I have a sister that's about 2 years younger than me, and I have a little brother that is 17 years younger than me. So I'm the oldest, and at the time I had taken my brother, taken custody of him because he was 9 years old when we lost our mother. So I'm back in Virginia with my 9-year-old brother. I was a newlywed, so I had been married a year, and I had just lost my job. So all this stuff was going on. I lost my job because of September 11th had occurred, and I was laid off. I was working in the travel industry as an engineer at that time. And so anyway, that is how I got to my low point and needed to find my way up. And so my heart was broken, didn't know what I was going to do, struggling, trying to figure out what was the next move, and God literally spoke to me. So like I said, I didn't know which way was up, didn't even have a job, had this little kid to raise, and actually who's on here now. What's up, bro? Happy Thanksgiving to you. And God spoke to me, and he said to write this book. Trouble was, I couldn't write the book because I was stuck. I was stuck in grief. I was in the grieving process. But I clearly heard him say, write the book, because there are other people that have lost their mothers. There are other people that have gone through a difficult, toxic, or had a narcissistic mother, had a mother that didn't care, couldn't love. There are people that have gone through this, and they're going to need these words to guide them. So write the book. So I tried writing the book, and I was too deep in grief to get the words out. Literally was crying over the keyboard, like couldn't get it written. And so I stepped away. And I'd come back, and it took me the course of 20 years to get the whole book written. And in the time, God shared with me many lessons. There were things I needed to learn, things I needed to go through. And I went through them, and he basically laid out the steps to this book. And so it really wasn't me, just picking up things as I went along. I went through the whole process, through the whole journey. What's up, sis? And so I got my brother and my sister on. Wonderful. But I went through the whole journey from the heartache and the misery of losing my mother, of realizing that I didn't get what I wanted from her, didn't have the closeness that I wanted and needed, and the life lessons that came along with that. So he put the book together, and I have for you the steps to healing as a result of it. So if you have questions along the way, you can drop your questions. I'm happy to answer them. But let's get into the process of healing. Now, my process is a 4-part framework, and it breaks down into more steps. But before you can heal, the very first thing you have to do is get your mind straight. And like I said, if you've been on the page any amount of time, you have heard me say this. So mindset is about 90% of your journey. It's 90% of the battle. Anytime you want to do something, anytime you want to make a change, you have to get your mind right first. You have to make that shift. So whatever has been the norm or whatever has been going on, you literally have to talk to yourself and understand why you deserve better, why you need something different, why you want to go higher, why it's time to elevate, why it's time for a change. You talk to yourself and you tell yourself that that's what you need and that's what you want. And when you do that, that switch flips in your mind, and then you're ready to move forward. Now, you may not at that point know what forward looks like. You may not have the steps. You may not even understand what it's going to take, but you are ready. And so mindset begins before any of the steps, any of the plan, any of the process can take place. Got it? You need to talk to yourself and coach yourself. Encourage yourself and tell yourself what you need. All right, so that's the pre-work, mindset. You are not going to be able to move forward no matter what the process looks like. People can give you the process, the plan, the money, the hand holding, and it could all be free. And you would not be able to move through it if you are not ready in your mind and if you do not believe you deserve something different and better. All right, are we on the same page? Okay. So let's dive into the steps that I have that I tell you they came from God, because there's no way that I would have even known. I didn't even know what was going on with me until he revealed it. So these are the steps. Once you have your mindset, healing seems very daunting. It seems very difficult, but it really comes down to decisions and processes. That's how I look at healing. It's decisions and processes. And yes, it takes courage and strength and effort and persistence to get through and to heal. And healing is ongoing. You know, sometimes you're going to have some setbacks, but it really comes down to processes and decisions. Now, what do I mean by that? So first, the first step in my 4-part process is acceptance. And acceptance is a decision. It's a decision that you make, and it's not an easy one. And so in the book, I break it down, and it has some parts to it. And so before you can accept anything, you need to know how to get there and decide if you're going to be able to do it. And so I simply talk about acknowledging the trauma. If you have had a difficult relationship with your mother and you lost her and you are stuck in grief or you're in pain and you don't know why, you don't know how to get out, you have to acknowledge the fact that something wasn't right. I know psychiatrists, psychologists, people in the medical professions don't like us to use narcissism as, because we can't diagnose people. But I believe that you know when something's wrong with your mama. I believe you know when something is off. I believe you can understand when you're not being supported and loved just right. I believe you know when you're not getting what you need. And so we don't have to have a fancy label to know something's wrong. Okay? Because for a mother to not be attached to her children in a way that would support them and that would build them up and that would take time with them, that is a disconnect. There's something wrong there. Okay? And so it's not to tear them down, because my mama went through something, and a lot of mothers out there go through things, and they can't always fix themselves and show up for us like we need them. Now let me put a pin right there. In no way does this mean that they get to treat you how they want to treat you and you just have to be there for that. What I'm saying is trauma is real, and it can be generational, and it can be passed down. So to get to acceptance, you have to acknowledge that something's wrong first. You have to acknowledge it. Don't be in denial and don't lie. Acknowledge that something isn't right. And then understand what might have occurred with your mother that caused her to be like that. You can have empathy for her and understand it without okaying it. Okay, because I know my mama deep down wanted to be loved. I know she wanted a lot of things in this world, and she wanted to be accepted by her family and by others, and she didn't feel like she had that. And so that kind of trauma can force you to act out, to be ugly, to be bitter, and that's what happened. And even though there were points where I literally said I hated her because of how she treated me, deep down I loved her because that's a bond that's unbreakable, and I wanted us to have a relationship. So I just want you to understand that. Acceptance means dealing with all of that, understanding that trauma occurred and not running away from the fact, admitting that trauma happens to people and it's real, and then it causes effects that we don't like and that is difficult for us to deal with. And then when you do that, you can finally see your mother for who she is and say, okay, I accept her. Not, it is okay with me for her to mistreat me or for her to have mistreated me, but I accept that I cannot change her. She is who she is. Okay, I couldn't run to her when I got a job promotion and expect her to be excited and thrilled. I couldn't run to her when I bought a house. So you have to understand that that's not who she is and that's not who she was. You can't expect her to have been the mother that you wanted because that's not how she was set up. And you have to accept it. So that is the first part of my process. And it is a heavy, heavy part. You have to be able to get through this part before you can move to the rest of it. All right. So spend some time working with the decision. Am I going to accept her for who she is? Or am I going to continue in my mind to wish her to be different, to try to make her change, to try to teach her to be a better mother? If your mother's still alive? Or are you going to accept her and understand what you can and can't do, what you can't expect and what you can expect? All right? After acceptance is grief. Grief is a process. Acceptance is a decision that you make. Grief is a process. Grief is a process, and it can be 5 steps. Some people say 7 steps. Now, I was using Healthline when I put my notes together. And Healthline is an online mental health site. If you don't know, I think it has great information. So Healthline says that grief is 7 steps. And the first part of grief is shock and denial. The next part is pain and guilt. And then there's the anger and the bargaining where you want to try to change things. Then sometimes there's depression. And this is a short-term depression that you can go into. If depression during grief turns into a long-term thing, then you need to seek help. You need a medical professional to help you, whether that's with just talk therapy or medication or whatever it may be. But if you get stuck in the depression portion and it's longer than 2 weeks, you need to reach out for help. The next part of grief is there could be an upward turn where you're starting to work through, and then you begin progressing, and then you get to acceptance and hope. So grief is a process, and when you go through the process of grief, you are processing a loss. It can be a loss of, like for me, physically my mother was gone from me, and there was no chance of fixing anything because she's no longer on this earth. But also, the part that God revealed to me was I never grieved the loss of our relationship. I never had the mother-daughter relationship that I was looking for. I never, she didn't teach me the things that I wanted to learn about being a woman and about being in relationships and about being a friend and how to be myself. A lot of times she felt like there was something wrong with me being how I was, and that was her bitterness. There wasn't anything wrong with me per se, but that was some of what was going on with her. And so I wanted those things, and I never grieved the fact that we weren't going to have the relationship. And so grief is handling a loss. And you must handle the loss because you are a real human being. You have feelings, and you cannot just stuff things inside and hold them in there and think that you're going to be okay. You have to let it out. Whether that's crying, bawling, rolling on the floor, whether that's screaming, whatever it is you need to do, whether that's therapy, whether that's nature walks, whether that's taking up an activity, you have to do something to process the grief. Don't let it sit there and think that time heals it. Because I learned that time does not heal wounds. Working through it, dealing with emotions, that's what heals. All right? And people like to say that time heals, and I thought time healed too. I thought it did too. And then I noticed I'd be 6 years out from when my mother died, and then I'd fall out again. And then I'd be, 10 years out, I'd be fine, I'd be happy. Then year 15, I'd rolling on the floor again, bawling. And so time is not a healer. The only thing that healed was working through it. Because that thing can hit you fresh like it just happened yesterday. So you have to work through the emotions that you're feeling. And we talk about, in my programs, I talk about how you get through it, but we're just laying out the process today. So let's keep moving. So there's acceptance, which is a decision, and there's grief, which is a process. And then that brings us to forgiveness. Forgiveness. Now, there's a lot of people that don't feel like you have to forgive a toxic or narcissistic mama, or unavailable mama, or mama that was just mean, that was evil, that did horrible things to you, or she was abusive, or verbally abusive, or she just didn't care. You don't have to forgive them. And you don't. Forgiveness is up to you. It's up to you. But what I will tell you about unforgiveness, when you hold things like that in and repeat what was done to you and think about it again and harbor those things, it can harm you physiologically. Like, it can cause you to be more susceptible to disease. It can cause you stress. It can cause you high blood pressure. It can cause the things that can normally happen to us. We can become at higher risk for those things to occur. And I talk about this in the book. There is an article I took from Johns Hopkins Hospital to discuss the physiological results of unforgiveness. And so it's just like drinking poison. That's what they say. Because unforgiveness doesn't hurt the people that did something to you. It hurts you. It hurts you because you are the one with your heart rate going up and down. You are the one rethinking that thing and re-traumatizing yourself every time you think about it. You are the one that's holding on to something and not moving forward. And so I encourage forgiveness. I don't preach that you have to do it, because I arrived at it when I arrived at it. Nobody could tell me nothing about who I was going to forgive. And I might not have forgiven my mother if she wasn't literally on her deathbed and God was guiding me. So I know I came to it when I was ready, but I'm encouraging you to make the decision. And when you make the decision to forgive, that means you're releasing something. It doesn't mean you have said okay about what was done to you. It doesn't mean that you have said it's all right, I like to be treated this way. It means you are releasing it, and you understand that you can't change something that has already happened. And you also understand that staying there in the place and holding on to it is hurting you. It ain't hurting nobody else. It's hurting you. And you also understand that holding on to it, those feelings, those emotions around what happened and around the treatment, holding on to it is taking up space. It's taking up space that keeps you from walking into your next. It's taking up space that keeps your mind tied up so you can't receive new ideas and new thoughts. It's taking up space that keeps you from experiencing new things that will move you forward. So forgiveness is a way of release. And when you do it, you've decided, I'm not going to seek revenge. I'm letting that go, because that is not my place to pay back anyone. I'm going to let God handle it however He handles it. And I understand that it will heal me to move forward. And when you forgive others, whenever you get there, don't forget to forgive yourself. Because a lot of us went through things that were difficult. A lot of us went through things that were, we weren't able to do better because we were young, or we were trying to guide ourselves, or we were trying to learn ourselves, or figure things out on our own without everything we needed. And so you need to forgive yourself. And when you have done forgiveness, when you have made that decision that you're going to let things go, then you are ready for the fourth part of my process, which is renewal. And in renewal, you learn about relationships. And the first relationship is the relationship to yourself. So you learn to love yourself. You learn to work on you. That means knowing your worth. So self-worth is huge, and you have to know your worth. And then you become more self-confident, and your self-esteem will increase. You learn the things you like and the things you don't like, and you learn that you are enough. And that means you can show up as yourself. You can be you. And it's important to be authentic, because when you're fake, you just aren't happy, because you can't be yourself. You can't live, outright. And so getting to understand and love yourself is the first stage of renewal. And, you have all those other processes and decisions behind you, and so you can really focus on yourself. Now, once you get yourself together, the next part of renewal is working on the relationships around you. When you know yourself, and when you love yourself and understand yourself, and know, what your triggers are and what things make you happy, that helps you to show up better as a parent. Because you know what you were missing, and you know who you are, and you know how you want to be with your kids, or with nieces, nephews, if you don't have any kids. So you can show up better for the children around you. You also know how to interact with a spouse. Now, there's a whole live or two that I've done about how being unmothered or having that toxic relationship with your mother affects your romantic relationships. But once you get yourself together, you can better understand what you need in relationships and what you're willing to give. And that definitely applies to romantic relationships. And it also applies to your friendships. And so renewal helps you just look at all three of those types of relationships with fresh eyes, because now you know who you are. You're who you need to be. And so you can give the best of you, and you know what you need back. And when that's out of whack, then you can recognize it really quickly and be able to fix it. Or if it's a romantic relationship or friendship, you can be able to move on if you need to. But you can attract the people that you need around you, and that vibe with you, and that work with you, when you understand yourself. And it just enriches those relationships even more, and it helps you find really good friends and really good mates, or just deepen that connection, because you are grounded in yourself. And that's something we don't get a lot of times when we're young, because we're being torn down, we're not being built up. And so it has to happen now when you're an adult, so that you can get the benefits of being in those relationships and pouring back into other people, because we are all connected. All right. And then to do this, to do it well, the last part of renewal is setting your boundaries and setting your goals. Because setting boundaries, you need the boundaries to protect you and to keep the peace while you're healing. It's really, literally, is almost impossible to heal when you are constantly facing, traumatic battles, and there's drama, and there's headbutting, whether your mother is still here or it's just the family, doing stuff. So sometimes putting a boundary in place is the best way, because it really protects you. And that can be a physical boundary, like where there's distance, and people can't get to you. Or it can just be mentally, like I was saying with Thanksgiving. If you know there's a point where you can't handle the talk and the drama that's going on, you have to separate yourself from the house, from the family, whatever it takes. So put your boundaries in place so that you can heal. And then set goals that you want. Because when you do that, and you decide that you deserve better, you can go higher, then you know that you can break these generational cycles. You know that you can break them, because you understand you can be different than those that came before you. Just because there's been, trauma and all of this negativity and whatever it was going on in your past, doesn't mean you have to take it forward. So healing can begin with you. Breaking generational cycles can begin with you. And so you decide, what new traditions am I going to have? What things am I going to do differently? I was just talking about this. We used to eat dinner at 12 o'clock when I was growing up. But I don't do that when I'm having dinner with just my family. It's the 5 of us. Dinner is like 5, or like yesterday was like 6, because I'm a one-woman show. I can have the teens and they can help me, but you know how people are and kids are. So I have my own traditions that I set. We have our own things that we do. And I don't feel any type of way about it, because I'm a grown woman. And you're grown too. So you get to set new traditions, new ideas, and you can break off the old stuff that does not serve you. Now, we didn't just get brokenness, from our ancestors and from our mothers, there were some good parts. If there are good things that you can take forward, take those things forward. But take the time to analyze those things that don't serve you. Take the time to analyze what parts of the relationship with your mother were very harmful, and what parts, do you need to discard and never go back to again. And you can write it out. You can journal it out. But take the time to go through and recognize that you are your own person. You can do whatever it is you want to do. This is your life. She had her life, however it was lived, however it turned out. This is your time. This is your life. Okay? So set your goals, set your boundaries, set your goals, break those cycles, and create new traditions and go higher. Dream bigger and go higher. Okay? It's your birthright. All right? So that's the 4-part framework. I'm going to run it back real quick. Healing is decisions and processes. Get your mind straight first. That's off the top. And then we walk into my process, which is acceptance, understanding the trauma and accepting your mother for who she is. Grief, grieving the fact that you're not going to have that mother-daughter relationship you wanted. Grieving the fact that you have lost your mother. Grieving that and letting it go. Processing through, taking your time and processing through. Number 3 is forgiveness. Unforgiveness can harm you physically and mentally. It takes up space and it keeps you from moving forward. So consider forgiving her and forgiving others, and definitely forgive yourself. And once you do that, you will open up your heart and your mind to new things and new energy. And when you have those 3, the 4th is renewal. And renewal means loving yourself, learning yourself, being your authentic self, getting your self-worth together, and then moving into being a better parent, a better spouse or partner, and a better friend. And then finally, you'll be able to set your boundaries and clear goals, bigger dreams, break in those cycles and new traditions so that you can move forward. Okay? Let's see. There's a comment here from Tamika. I always say, take from it what you want. Take the good and leave what does not serve you. Amen. Amen, sister. Amen. Yes, because my mama gave me some good things. I will always love her. Will always love her. Although I understand the brokenness and the bitterness, and I don't think that she treated me well or right, I still love her because that is how I was taught, and that is what's truly in my heart. And if she could have gotten better, I would have wanted that for her. She didn't. She went on. She left here. But there were good things that I could take from it as well. And there are changes that I'm also going to make. So thank you for that comment. Yes, so that's what I have for you guys today. A full-on 30-minute talk today. But I had time today. So I'm so glad I could be with you. And if you want to know more about this process, it is here in the book, Unmothered, A Daughter's Guide to Acceptance, Healing, and Renewal. The book is available on my website. If you like ebooks, it's also on Amazon. Oh, I have a Black Friday deal going on right now where you can get this book with free shipping from my website. So just want to say that because I completely forgot. I was just so excited to sit with y'all. Didn't even think about it. But yes, also one-to-one coaching is still open. So if you want to have someone to walk you through this process of healing, then schedule some time with me and we can set up a call and see if I can help you. And also my course, my digital course is open that takes you through the steps to healing. All right. So that's what I have for you today, fam. I hope that you guys had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope you're ready for the winter holidays, whatever you celebrate, however you get down. I hope that you are going to be blessed and that your heart will be full. All right. I love you, and I will see you next week. Bye.